This is episode 25 with Bailey Richard.
Welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast, the show that empowers you to become the hero of your life's journey. With your host, Brian Tier.
Hey guys and girls, welcome back to another episode of the Quarter Life Comeback Podcast, and thank you again for putting me in your earbuds for another week. We've got episode 25 today with a very special guest, Bailey Richard, and I'm very excited to be bringing it to you. Bailey is a business coach for beginning and budding infopreneurs who are basically people who create businesses based on their life experience, knowledge, and their skills. Now, during her own quarter life years, Bailey appeared to have everything going for her on the outside. She graduated as valedictorian from her college, landed a really good engineering job, and just seemed to have it all. And she knew, however, that the job she currently had would not help her to achieve the other visions and the other dreams that she had for her life. She then began writing about travel, and soon others were asking her how she'd created a life which gave her more time, money, and freedom. So basically, Bailey decided to pivot her business and now helps others create their own businesses based on their life experiences. In this episode, you're going to learn, should you quit your job now or start a business on the side first? How to make a big change when others think you're crazy for wanting to do so. How to avoid procrastination from thinking we need to learn more first. How to overcome your life crisis by starting a business. Why it's a good thing that it's all been done before. And the things that Bailey wishes she'd been told in her 20s. As usual, you guys can catch the show notes with all the links and resources we mentioned at briantier.com/025. But in the meantime, sit back, relax. I think you're going to enjoy this one. And let's go hang out with Bailey Richard. Welcome back, everyone. And a big welcome to today's guest. I'm speaking to Bailey Richard. Bailey, welcome to the Quarter Life Comeback.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, I came across your work through a summit that you just put on, and I loved your story when I read more about you, and I was wondering if you could share that with the listeners today.
Absolutely. Well, I think like a lot of people, I was kind of taught that there's a formula for happiness, that there's a certain way that you're supposed to live your life, do really awesome in high school and then go to college with a scholarship, do well there and then get an amazing job. And eventually you'll save up enough money to buy a house, have some kids and retire when you're 60 or 70, maybe these days. And that's the path that I was following for a really long time. I was high school valedictorian, got a scholarship to go to college, studied engineering, and eventually wound up working the consulting grind out in California for many years. And it was about in 2013 that I started to realize, you know what? This is not what I want anymore. I actually had a quarter life crisis. I really did. I even, was suffering like the visceral reactions, the anxiety and the panic attacks, just kind of thinking about my future and how did I get here and where am I going? And, there were other things that I wanted for my life that the cubicle grind wasn't giving me. I wanted more freedom and autonomy. I was living all the way across the country from my family and rarely ever got to see them. I'm really big into philanthropy and was, I just didn't have enough time to dedicate to that. And of course, I love to travel. I've been to 24 countries and with 2 weeks of vacation a year, how many countries can you really see? And so I just decided, you know what? I really need to make a big change. And so I decided that as a very practical engineer, the only way that I was going to be able to do that is if I could become my own boss and really live my life on my own terms. And I really wanted this to succeed. There's so many people that get into business and they kind of do it half-heartedly, but I was determined. And so I realized that maybe I needed an education in this. So I decided to quit my job, enroll at MIT and to get a master's, and I studied entrepreneurship while I was there. And my goal was when I enrolled at MIT was to start my business, and by the time I had graduated, to be fully self-employed. And it was there that I began learning more about what I call infopreneurship, which is turning your life experience, your knowledge, and your passions into profit through mostly informational products, things like ebooks, online courses, stuff like that. And my very first infopreneur business was actually in the travel business. I mentioned that I love to travel. I did 2 study abroads when I was in college. And so I was really plugged into the study abroad communities at multiple universities. So I began by writing ebooks, teaching online courses, and speaking about safe, savvy, and sustainable international travel is what I called it. I'm huge into alliteration. That's my geeky thing. It's like when I can do that, that's what I love to do.
Yeah, I'm the same.
That was my first business, and I still have a lot of those revenue streams. I still have my books up on Amazon and stuff like that. But a lot of people started to notice that things were changing in my life. They started to say, you're making some more money on the side. You have so much more joy in your work. You're passionate about this. That's awesome. And they started to ask me questions about how I was doing things. How did you publish a book? How did you start an online course? How are you making money on the side like this? And so that's when I started teaching mostly my friends and family to start how I did all of that stuff, how I started a successful infopreneur business online. And then I started to realize, there's a huge need and a huge market for this. Other people wanted to know. So I created my first online course about self-publishing, wrote a few books about that. And then it just started to grow. And I loved doing it so much that I eventually pivoted my business full time. So that's what I do now. I call myself a business coach for beginning and budding infopreneurs. And I help people take that life experience that they have and start businesses creating informational products.
I love it. And there's so many ways I can go with this conversation from that alone. But I want to just ask a quick question. So how old were you then when you had this moment during your 9-to-5 job where you were like, this is not it? And when you decided to go back to study?
I was exactly 25, I think. So
Okay, cool.
The really quarter life crisis is true there.
Yeah, cool. Now, you mentioned that you quit your job and went back to learn, to study entrepreneurship. So you kind of had a plan of what was going to happen. But if someone, they don't know what they're going to do after they quit their job, would you recommend that they start building something on the side while they have their job, or jump ship and take on the next thing wholeheartedly?
Oh, they should absolutely start their business while they're at their job and they have that safety and security of the employment. And so the reality is that there is no guarantee in the entire world that a business that you start is going to succeed. There could be a lot of reasons why. Maybe the niche that you chose just wasn't that profitable, or, you're not that great at your website SEO, or just whatever. There's a million different reasons. And so you need to be sure that you have revenue and income coming in before you quit that job. For me, I could have done that. And I guess I technically did. I started writing my very first travel book while I was working my job in California in 2013. But there was just a little bit of overlap there. Most of my business was built while I was at MIT. For me, academia was always a place where I really excelled. And I have to be honest that I was also MIT is a research university, so I was getting my tuition paid for while I was there. So I was not taking on any additional student loans. I wasn't taking on any additional costs for attending school. And while I was at school, I was getting paid a small stipend as a research assistant. And so I had the safety and security of that financial backing while I was doing my business. So I don't want to give anyone the incorrect impression that I just decided, to throw caution to the wind and, I had no money and then built this business. No, I had that safety and security. It just wasn't at work. It was at school, because school also gave me the time flexibility that I needed to start my business. You don't have to be in a cubicle from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day, but rather, you have class from 1 to 2, 3 to 4. And then, in between, you have a lot more time to build.
Mm. Yeah, and I suppose everyone's situation is going to be different. So it's not like, oh, well, Bailey had this or that, or for everyone, it'll be a unique path type of thing. Now,
absolutely. You need to consider what your situation is and what is good for you. If you have a lot of dependents or pets or a mortgage or whatever, don't be crazy and just quit your job with no savings, and get started. There's always so many things that you can get started on the side while you're still working. You need to think about what the message of your business is, how you're going to brand it, start your website, all of that stuff you can do on the side.
What I love about your story is it wasn't like you were in some dire situation and needed to make a change. From the outside, I think you mentioned on your website, like it appeared like you had it all. And what I really respect and admire about that is, you had what most people would say is like everything going for you, the good job and, valedictorian. But I want to know, how do you make that change when it appears like you have everything going for you and other people are calling you crazy for wanting more or wanting something different?
That's such a great question. And I think to date, no one's really asked me that on a podcast, but it's so important though, because you're right. I really did have it all, I guess, the American dream in the sense that, I was working a full-time job. So I was fully self-employed. I had a really nice apartment. I had my own car. I was working as an engineer, which I think that, is kind of a societally prestigious job. I was, not making minimum wage or anything like that. But the reality is that I was not working at a job that was using my passions at all. I was using my intellect, but it wasn't something that I had ever set out to do. It was a path that I had been led down because, okay, well, when I became valedictorian, I got a scholarship to go to RPI, where I went for undergrad, Rensselaer. And so, finances being what they were, I said, well, scholarship's a good thing. And, I don't want to have to pay too much. So I went there, and I picked my major because engineers, are pretty well paid, and, that's an engineering school. So that's what I should do. And, it was one thing after another. But I never really ever stopped to say, okay, Bailey, how are you going to start accomplishing your life's purpose through your life's work? And that was a question that I never asked myself. No one asks themselves that question. That's too big. It's too existential, But those are the kinds of questions that I started asking myself at that quarter life crisis moment. So for me, one of the impetuses for me having to leave my job, as I mentioned, were it was the very physical nature of what I was experiencing. I was not just moping around kind of unhappy. It was a very serious thing. I was, up every single night until 3 a.m. worrying about this. I was calling my parents. People could tell it was stressing me out. Like I was going to implode if I really didn't make a change. So for one, it was kind of health reasons. Number two is one of the triggers for my quarter life crisis was because at that time in 2013, I was preparing to take something called the professional engineering licensing exams. They're the terminal certification in our field. And I guess I just kind of felt like as soon as I got those, and I passed those exams, what was next? There was nothing else to do. It was just, I had accomplished everything that I wanted to in my field, and I was going to sit in this cubicle for the next 50 years. And that really scared me. I had so much more to offer the world, and I knew that, and I knew that this job wasn't going to allow me. But what you said about people thinking that I was crazy, you are mostly right. I have to say, first of all, that I have an extremely supportive system of friends and family. And so my close friends, my intimate friends, my parents, my siblings, they understood what I was going through and they wanted to see me thrive. And so when I told them I wanted to make this change, they were incredibly supportive. And for that, I'm forever grateful because I don't necessarily know if I could have succeeded without their help and support. But everybody else on the outside, acquaintances, coworkers, people that really didn't know what I was going through, they definitely thought that I was crazy. Why in the world would you give this up? Like, you're just restless. You'll never be happy, And it was really, really frustrating to have them try to explain it to them when they weren't themselves ever experiencing what I was experiencing. But at the end of the day, I kept reminding myself that you only have one life and I'm not living my life for them. Why in the world do I have to live my life in a way that makes sense to them? My coworkers at my 9-to-5, I would have never even have met ever in life if I never took that job. So why in the world does what they think matter? What matters is my life and what I think about my life. And I knew that I needed to make a change. And so when I felt like I was crazy or somebody said that to me, I had to keep reminding myself that they didn't understand my struggle. They didn't understand what I was going through. And who are they to tell me what I can or can't do with my life?
Boom. I love
Boom,
it.
mic drop.
I love it. And I can so relate to that. I also did engineering. I studied it and did that for a couple of years as a profession. And I got to this point as well where I was really unfulfilled. My family had started noticing that I wasn't my usual happy self. And I also had this kind of like this little slogan I said to myself, which was, no one's going to make my life awesome for me.
Yeah.
So that was a big shift for me. Bailey, with the infopreneur work you do and the fact that you went back to study, I think you're probably perfectly positioned to answer my next question. And that is that, you went back to study entrepreneurship, which no doubt helped in starting your own business. But I think often it can be easy for young people today to be inundated with like too much information or thinking that they need to learn something new before getting started. How do we balance needing to learn the next thing versus like just taking that step?
That's an interesting question. I think that whenever people are thinking about starting a business, infopreneurship might be kind of a new concept to them. And so they don't necessarily think that the current life experience and skills that they have can be monetized. And that's what I do is I help them realize that they can. Now, in a lot of circumstances, they are still going to have to learn skills related to online marketing, what's a sales funnel, that kind of stuff. But you definitely don't need to start from scratch in order to start a business and say, all right, well, I need to develop a brand new skill set in a particular thing in order to offer somebody a service. I think you can do an inventory of your current skills and to say, okay, what is it that I know, that I'm amazing at, that I'm really passionate about, that I can teach other people? Essentially, that's what infopreneurs are, is we are teachers, but we're just not in a traditional classroom setting or college professors. We're teaching through our books and our products. We're teaching through online courses and workshops. But ultimately, what we're trying to do is help people get through some sort of transformation in their lives by expediting the process of learning something. So that could be, a very technical skill, like I'm, an expert in Excel, Microsoft Excel, and I can teach you, how to be a pro and give you all the skills you need. And that helps somebody transform their skills and become, better at that software. But it can also be a little bit less technical. It can be something like I went through a divorce or something like that, and I am an expert in, overcoming those kind of emotions, and you can help people have transformation in their lives from an emotional perspective. So I think that every single person that is listening to this podcast right now has a particular set of skills, to quote Liam Neeson, that they can use to start a business. And what they then need to do to answer the other part of your question in order to make progress and move forward is to recognize, what business skills or what online marketing skills, that they don't have that they can use to then shore up the business end of things. That's generally what I run into in my industry is that, I'll meet people that say, I'm really awesome at this, but I have just no idea how to really turn it into money. How do I turn it into a course or a book or whatever? And that's what I can help you do. And so I think that taking the inventory of your skills and really pinpointing what it is that you want to share, what it is that you want to help people transform in their lives is the first step. And then recognizing what are the gaps in the business knowledge that you don't have and going and trying to learn those.
Yeah, I'll definitely link up BaileyRichard.com in the show notes. So Bailey, I saw on your newsletter today that you had your big reveal of your TEDx talk, which I know you were very excited about. And if I'm not wrong, then it was all about starting a business to kind of overcome a life crisis. If someone's listening to that, like how to start their own business to overcome their life crisis. Could you possibly give us like the Cliff Notes version of that talk and what that was all about?
Absolutely. So I'm going to be speaking at TEDx Harrisburg in October, and the talk is called Life Crisis, Start a Business. And the talk is basically split into two parts. The first half of it, I'm going to be sharing my story. So exactly what it is that we've already talked about and just telling people that, I was 25 and I was undergoing this life crisis and I decided to make a change by starting my business. The second half of the talk is actually really practical. It's about 7 or 8 points where I share with you some of the things that I have learned through the process of starting a business that helped me overcome that life crisis. So some of the things might be, for example, community. When I was working my 9-to-5, I was surrounded by a lot of people who didn't understand what I was going through. They weren't like me. They didn't have the same mindset as me. They weren't as adventurous. They didn't want more for their lives. And when you're in a life crisis, what you really need to do is surround yourself with people who truly understand what you're going through and are supportive of helping you move past it. And when I started a business, that is exactly what I was able to do. I was able to curate a community of people who who thought like me, who knew what I was going through, who supported me. And that was essential for me to be able to come out of my life crisis and to really get to a different, happier place. So that's one thing. Another thing is knowledge. When we're in the middle of a life crisis, our mind often really sits upon negative thoughts. But one of the things that I've noticed about my own life is that whenever we're learning something new, we kind of dive into it. We get obsessed with it. If it's something that we like, if it's something that we're passionate about, and your mind gets to a happier place. It doesn't dwell on those really negative thoughts, but rather it is thinking about this thing that you're trying to learn, and you feel like you're making progress in something. So maybe you're trying to learn a new language, you're trying to learn how to play guitar. When I started my business, I had to learn how to do online marketing. I had to do sales funnels, and it was exciting for me. And getting my mind occupied with those things kept them out of the negative thoughts that I was experiencing in my life crisis. Another thing is opportunity. When you're in a life crisis, you feel like there is no future. There's no good future. There's nothing to look forward to. This is it. Like, it's not going to get better. But when I started a business, I started to realize that the world was just opening up to me, and there was so much opportunity out there. An opportunity to do a TED Talk, an opportunity to be on podcasts, to share my knowledge with other people, to meet new people, to travel. It just changed my perspective about things. And so in order to overcome your life crisis, you have to feel like there's opportunities in the future and things to look forward to. And starting a business helped me get there. There's a lot more, but essentially that's what the talk is all about. It's about how starting a business made me realize that there were practical and actionable ways that you can overcome a life crisis that you don't necessarily think about when you're in that crisis, but starting a business helped me discover them. And I share all of those ways in this talk.
I love it. I can't wait to watch. And I mean, we are so lucky to live in the time that we do, where I can speak to you, for example, and, we can create online businesses, and it's never too late either. I mean, there's people way later than their 20s or 30s that are starting, leveraging their skills and their talents and making a business for themselves. So I think we are really lucky to live in the time that we do. And I'm sure that's only going to get better from here. But yeah, I can't wait to watch that talk. Bailey, if someone has already taken some of the big steps, whether they've quit their job or not, but they know what they want now, and they know they want to create a business out of it, but they feel like they're at a plateau and they're not quite getting to that next step. Do you have any tips for someone in that situation?
Sure. Well, I teach what I call a 6-step process for launching your infopreneur business. And in the beginning is kind of the quote unquote easy stuff. You have to pick your niche. You have to define your message. What is it that you're actually going to teach people? You have to think about your brand. And I think that a lot of people can do that pretty much on their own, or they come to me and they already have an idea of this, I'm an expert in this. I really want to teach that. And that's fine. But then you get to the later steps, 4, 5, and 6, which are building a platform, creating revenue streams, and developing a sales funnel so that you can sell those revenue streams on a consistent basis. That's what I was talking about earlier, about the fact that a lot of people might have the skills that they need to start the business, but they need to really shore up that business knowledge about how to get going. So I really do believe that it is essential that if you're kind of new to that you start looking into getting a coach. And I don't mean that to be self-serving advice, but it is advice that I really wish that I would have heeded whenever I was starting my business, because I feel like my business could have already been, light years ahead of where it even is now, if I had somebody guiding me and telling me, okay, this is what you need to do next. This is what we need to shore up. Because the reality is that you need someone to hold you accountable. You need someone to help you figure that out when you're just getting started. You don't necessarily need to have a coach forever, but in the beginning, I really do think that that is important. Having a blog, a lot of people do that in the beginning. That's part of step 4. Creating your online platform. But what I see time and time again is people say, oh, well, I'm just, trying to build up my readership and I'll monetize eventually. I really think that you should have a plan for monetizing your online platform, your blog, and your business, from the start. So before you waste a whole lot of time creating these blog posts and getting in readers that might not be your ideal customer, you need to be thinking about, okay, well, am I going to be primarily writing books, or primarily doing courses, or primarily doing workshops workshops? What is it that I really want to make my primary revenue stream? So get a coach. Focus on shoring up your business knowledge. Think about how you want to monetize from the beginning so that whenever you're finally ready to create those products, it all meshes with the work that you've previously done.
Okay, cool. Got you. Bailey, I do want to be mindful of the time. I've got a couple more questions. Being in the business of infopreneurship, I'm sure you've dealt with or worked with people who have all sorts of skills, but there might be people listening to this and thinking like, well, it's all been done before, or there's so many people doing, like the example you mentioned earlier, teaching Excel or whatever it may be. What do you have to offer to those people who have that thought that, it's all been done before? Why would someone buy from me?
I constantly get this question, and I'm glad that you asked it because it's so important to realize that there is room for everybody within the infopreneurship space, even if somebody is already doing what you're doing. And in fact, it is a good thing if there is competition within your niche, and here is why. There is no such thing as a business, especially an infopreneur business, that is built upon the back of one person. That's just not how these things work. You are going to need to find other people within your niche with whom you can collaborate. So you mentioned earlier that I just did a summit this week. What a boring summit if I was the only person to speak on it. That's not really a summit. But I was able to reach out to 27 of my colleagues in this niche of business coaching, and I was able to bring them together so that we could all speak on our particular areas of expertise and put together an amazing event that brought together thousands of people. You are going to need to have colleagues and other people within your niche, not just for summits, but for lots of other things. Number one, for emotional support, or maybe you want them to speak on your course or do some bonus material, a collaborative effort like a joint venture webinar, guest posting. You need to have other people that you can work with to build your business. So you definitely don't want to be in a niche where you're all alone. So if you're thinking, well, other people have done this before, that's a good thing. Also, if people are already operating within your niche, it's a good thing because it's probably indicative that that is a profitable niche. There are some niches out there which are so small that the reality is you may not necessarily be able to create a sustainable business for yourself so that you can quit your 9-to-5. If you go to the grocery store and you look at the magazine rack, there is a reason why most of the magazines are about business, fashion, celebrities, cars, cooking, houses, that sort of thing. Those are popular niches that every single person is interested in. Those are the kind of niches that sell. And so if you're choosing a really obscure niche that nobody else is doing, you might think that you're being unique, but the reality is that you might be making life harder for yourself because you're choosing an audience that's way too small to buy your products to create a sustainable living for yourself. So to wrap it up, it's not a bad thing that other people have already done what you do. When you get into the business, you're going to find that it's not only helpful to have other people there to work with, but you are going to bring an interesting and unique perspective to your business in a way that nobody else can. Nobody has the story, your personal life story that you're going to be leveraging in your business. Nobody has the exact same perspective about the things that you've gone through and the way that, whoever it is should go about doing what you're doing. So keep in mind that there are ways to make your business unique, and it's okay if you're not the first person to the game.
Yeah, I've shared this statement that I'm about to share so many times and on a couple of different episodes, but I can't remember where I heard it, but someone said, if you're 1 in a million, there's still 7,000 people just like you. So you've always got a potential audience.
I like that.
Yeah. Bailey, what do you wish you'd been told in your 20s?
Oh, gosh. You know what? I wish that I had been told that it's okay to make more mistakes. You don't have to be perfect. You can take time and figure out what it is that you really want before having to settle into this, lifelong career. That it's okay to take time off. If you don't want to go immediately to college or you want to do some travel and you want to figure some of yourself out. I wish that someone had told me not to take on so much debt so early, because that's one of the reasons I felt like I had to stay in my job for as long as I did, was to pay that all off. I wish that somebody had taught me more about personal budgeting and, money management whenever I was younger. Kind of had to figure all that sort of stuff out from life experience. And I think there's so many things I wish somebody would have told me that, there isn't one definition of success, that you can do something different, and it's going to be okay. Yeah, those are the things.
I love it. Bailey, if people are listening to this and they want to maybe turn their knowledge and their skills into a business, or they just want to connect with you further, how can they do that, and where can they get hold of you?
Sure. Everybody should go and just check out my website at baileyrichert.com. I have links there in the header to absolutely everything. There's tons of free stuff that you can download about courses, self-publishing, list building, and more. Links to all of my courses. And if anybody ever wants to get in touch with me, you can either email me directly at contact@baileyrichert.com, or you can join my free Facebook group, which is called the Infopreneur Community. You can find a link to that on my website, or you can just Facebook search it, Infopreneur Community.
Cool. And I'll make sure to link up all the resources and links we mentioned in the show notes. Bailey, before I get to the final question, I just want to acknowledge you for coming on today and for sharing your story, and also for turning your situation into something that you really wanted. You easily could have just sat back and said, well, I'm doing everything that we're told we're supposed to do, and that's it. But you actually were proactive and actively built the life that you wanted to live. And I really want to thank you for sharing how you did that today. The final question that I have is, what one thing can listeners do this week to start creating their own quarter life comeback?
I think that you should go and buy your domain name.
Oh my goodness. I completely agree.
I mean, that's a really practical piece of advice. So, there are a lot of people out there that start blogs and they call them funny and cute things, and that's fine. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. But I think that I really do truly believe, and when clients come to me for the first time, I encourage them to pick this. Just go out and get the domain name that is literally your name if it's available, because number one, you want to snag it up before somebody else does it. Number two, as an infopreneur, you're really building a business around yourself and your life experience and expertise. People want to know you. They want to get in touch with you. And so you should, you're really going to have to put yourself out there. And so when people search for you, it's the best way. And when you take practical but teeny steps like that, it feels like you're making gigantic progress forward. Like it's actually happening. Something good is happening. So if you're thinking about doing it, go and buy that domain name. Good things are going to start after that, I promise.
I totally agree. And my girlfriend was also debating and asking me, what should I call my blog? And I said to her, honestly, just call it your name. It gives you so much freedom to pivot like you've done.
Yes.
And I actually think, so I've got a small nephew and niece, and I've been saying for the last couple of years that I'm going to buy them their domain name as their next birthday present. But I think I'm going to do it next year.
That is the best birthday present ever.
Yeah. Bailey Richert, thank you so much for coming on the Quarter Life Comeback.
Thank you so much for having me.
So there you have it, guys. That wraps up episode 25 of the Quarter Life Comeback. And I just want to say a big thank you to Bailey for coming on the show again. I really love what she's doing. And if you enjoyed this one, make sure you share it around with your friends on social media and tweet me at Brian Tier and at Bailey Richert and let us know what some of your biggest takeaways were. For me, it's definitely the fact that, you can turn your life experience into a business and create a completely different life for yourself. And also the fact that it's a good thing if you think that it's already been done before. It just shows that there's demand for it and possibilities to collaborate. So don't be discouraged by that. Once again, if you'd like to get all these episodes as soon as they come out, head on over to quarterlifecomeback.com and subscribe. And go ahead and leave a rating and review for the show too. Love to hear what you thought. And I'll be back at you guys with another episode next week. But until then, keep creating your quarter life comeback.
Thanks for listening to the Quarter Life Comeback. Get started today by visiting briantier.com.